What's up guys, David Rodriguez here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about adaptations, how stimulus works with your body, and the best way to get the most bang for your buck. But I kind of want to quickly explain how stimulus and adaptation work within your body. And the thing is that we are unfortunately not exponential creatures, right? So whenever it comes to doing anything new, you're going to see a massive uptick in gains, right? That's where you get the beginner gains, or things kind of like you're just learning everything, your brain's craving all the new information, and it kind of just it quickly adapts and it learns, and it's like, oh hey, this is great, this is something new to do, whatever, so on and so forth. And so you typically want, and people want, where they'll do a very simple program where they either add 5 to 10 pounds to whatever lift that they're doing, or they continue to keep trying to add maybe a twist to their corks or whatever. Once they've learned a cork, they're like, okay, cork, okay, now 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, and they think that if they just keep training like that, that they're going to shoot up all the way up to the top. Well, that's not how the brain works, and that's not how the body works at all. So we're not exponential growthers, because if you looked at it, right, if a person kept adding 10 pounds if they started on January 1st, if they added 10 pounds per week, so there's 52 weeks in a year, they would be able to add 520 pounds to whatever lift that they're doing. And that's ridiculous. If you were able to do that, you better be sharing that program with everybody else, because that would be a game changer. Now, a more realistic model of how the human body works with stimulus and adaptation is kind of more of a linear, steady growth. So at the beginning, right, when you've just started, you're going to see a small uptick. You're going to see a big uptick first, whoop, all the way up, and then of course you're going to have somewhat of a plateau where your body has already adapted to these things, and now you either need to change the rep scheme, maybe add different exercises, or maybe you need to put on even more weight, as in you go into now heavy sets as opposed to light sets, is what I mean, and not always just adding 10 pounds each time to your lift, right? And then you'll see another uptick, which will probably be smaller than your initial uptick, right? And then another plateau, upper tick, small plateau, so on and so forth, right? It'll come in waves. Your growth will come in waves as it goes on. So how can we kind of try to avoid, or at least shorten, these smaller plateaus, and maybe hopefully make ourselves look a little bit more exponential in our growth? When it comes to getting the bang out of our buck for our training, or for using stimulation, right, to promote our adaptation, number one is always going to be consistency. Now, I'll just explain this in two different ways. One, stick to the program or stick to your method of training. Because if you don't do that, whether it's a 6-week program, an 8-week program, or a 12-week program, then you're just going to end up falling off, and you're not going to get the benefits that you've been looking for, and then you're typically going to be like, oh, well, this didn't work. Well, it's not that it didn't work. It's just that you didn't apply yourself for however long that you were supposed to. And the same thing applies to whenever you're training yourself, right? If you don't have any money to ask others or get a training program from somebody else. So when it comes, if you want to maybe get better at your twisting, you can't train your twisting for 2 weeks, right? Whether you're doing trampoline drills or whatever, and then hope that you're gonna all of a sudden get a triple full or triple cork or quad cork or whatever. It's not how that works. You have to stick with it for, again, my rule of thumb that I really like to do is at least stick with it for at least about a month. So that's about 4 weeks, right? 6 weeks, right? If you're really aching for it, 8 and 12. If you were really dedicated to trying to fix that twist and that twist tech, or for anything, right? If maybe squatting isn't your forte, so you take a couple weeks or a couple months, right, to really understand, in recording, videoing yourself, you're like, okay, So I'm watching like the angle of my hips, the angle of my chest, how am I closed down, am I standing up, so on and so forth, right? And so again, the constant application of the training, the stimulation, is going to be key for your body to start having adaptations. Because if you stop, right, because again, so if you poked and prodded your body for like 2 weeks and it was like, oh, I'm getting like all this, like trying to get all these neurological changes, trying to understand what it is I'm supposed to do for a core or for learning how to deadlift or squat, and I'm like getting all this, but then you stop after 2 weeks and then you kind of just never come back to it because you thought, oh, I got it, it's fine, whatever, I did it once and that's all I need. Well, when you come back to it, maybe even like 2 to 3 weeks later, you find out that you can't do it, and then you get frustrated and you're like, well, why isn't this working? It's because you didn't put it in enough that you tricked your body into thinking it actually knew what it was doing. No, it's the constant application, understanding that not the more, but like a nice steady stream of stimulation to get your body to understand what it needs to do. Consistency is going to be key for your growth. So my second point, when it comes to using stimulation and adaptation, or stimulation and intensity to promote growth and adaptation, I like to think of right intensity, right time. Basically, essentially boiling down to, we want the least amount of intensity and stimulation to promote, again, right, the biggest amount of gains that we can get. Again, biggest bang for your buck. Now, two things could end up happening. You are putting in too much stimulation, too much intensity, and it's either going to end up killing your gains, you're going to overload it, be burnt out, and you're not going to progress anywhere. Or you end up having too little stimulation, and now you have no growth at all. So, concerning the second one, an example was Joe DeFranco. If you don't know him, he has a great podcast, especially more for meatheads, athletic performance. So if you're looking to get a little bit more knowledge, he's great resource, great podcast, probably wherever podcasts are found. He talked about how he had a student, a hockey player at one point, who was brought to him by the mother, and the mother said that, hey, we've taken him to all these different gyms, he isn't getting any faster, he's not becoming like any more agile, and we just don't know what to do. So he asked, well, what are they doing? And then she told him how they were doing all these plyometric drills, how they were doing all these agility and speed and footwork drills to try and make, right? Because it makes sense. You try and train what you're looking to do, right? Try to be as specific as possible or whatever. And so instead, Joe DeFranco took the kid and he started making him do basic, like he did, make him do lunges or weighted lunges, squats, just basic weightlifting work. And when it came to the end of the time, that kid was more agile out of the block. He was faster. He had like better like skating. He was better with his skating and everything like that. And he like showed the improvements that the others didn't, that the other coaches couldn't provide. Because, and other than like a caveat of, it's not always best to specifically train to what you're doing. Another thing is that they were trying to apply too much, right? Skills, plyometrics, and speed work. Power work is a high level, like is a high skill ceiling in comparison to strength. And if you're always trying to push, if they're always trying to push that high ceiling, but they don't even have a base, like not enough of a base, then there's no way for them to express that power. So the analogy he used was that power is an expression of strength. And so if you have no strength, you have no power. Same thing applies here. If you're applying too much and you don't even have the base built, then nothing is going to happen. You're not going to be able to push those boundaries. You're just going to be stuck at where you're at. Now, on the flip side, for too little, so say that you've been doing like heavy work and it's been improving for you, but now it's like, hey, now it's time to take a deload week, I'm going to try and back off. Well, typically people associate that with like, oh, maybe I just need to only be doing like 8 to 8 to 12 reps, but not a whole lot of weight, right? I'm trying to get like a big pump and lot of high reps, and then like a moderate amount of sets, right? And I just want to get a big pump, try to put more volume into my work, and then they find out that nothing is really working for them, or that it's not working for them. Well, they still haven't applied enough intensity to stimulate any growth. They thought that by just cutting back, that they will see growth. No, you have to still apply a moderate amount of intensity, right? And it's all dependent and all variable upon what it is that you're doing. So again, recap. Right amount of intensity, right amount of time. Okay, kind of like the Goldilocks rule. So my last point is rest. If you have no rest, if you don't take the time to take care of yourself, there's going to be no rebuilding, there's going to be no growth, and it doesn't matter how much stimulation and adaptation that you apply, nothing is going to happen. Even if you apply it at the right times, nothing is going to happen if you don't give yourself some rest. Now, obviously in recent years, and this has probably been ever since humans have been competitive, right? That if you're not slaving yourself away every single day, every waking moment of your day is spent, whatever sport that you're doing, there's somebody out there who's doing the work that you are. And honestly, I don't think I believe that. Everything's kind of probably more in the middle, right? Because even if the person is great, right? Michael Guthrie's, guess what? I'm sure Michael Guthrie's probably taking a day off from the gym, just to chill and relax and take a rest day. Same thing with any of the other great trickers, right? They've probably taken a couple days off just to kind of chill out. There's nothing wrong with it. And this idea that like you always have to be in the gym to slave away and get better, and it's going to just end up causing you, and you might see gains at first, right? So you might go up, but then the more you keep doing it, and the more you always keep trying to do your hardest tricks, hardest combos every single day, day in and day out, you're going to eventually see a crash. Now, maybe not for our younger trickers because you have the gifted youth on your side, but especially if you're older, right? If you're a little bit on the older side, you're going to end up seeing a crash, right? And I see it even still, right, with some of these trickers that I know in my own personal group, where they're like, I'm going to train through injuries, and this is my third training day, and third training of the day, and I'm a shonen anime MC, and boy, I'm going to become stronger than everybody. And then they're like, oh, I got hurt, and oh, my leg hurts real bad, and now I can't trick for 2 or 3 weeks. And it's like, well, good job. Now you've just put yourself out of the game for 3 weeks, and then when you come back, you're going to be back to square one. But then when they get back to square one, they're like, oh, I'm showing an anime MC. And I'm sure you probably know people who are like that. They're like, oh, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be better than everybody by training like 5 times a day, 3 times a day, and because nobody else is doing it. And yeah, there's a reason why no one else is doing it, because you're just going to hurt yourself. Duh. And so, making sure you get adequate amounts of sleep, adequate amounts of nutrition, even implementing a rest week where you take a whole entire week off of your sport is going to be beneficial for you, because then when you come back, right, you're going to have a renewed interest. Everything's going to be maybe put into more perspective. You can kind of reflect on your training week, and you're like, hey, it's time to get back into it. So, again, consistency, right stimulation at the right time, and rest. Those are my 3 tips, right, for using stimulation, adaptation, for getting the biggest bang for your buck. I'm David Rodriguez, Stomp Tricking. Please like, subscribe. If you have any ideas or things that you want me to talk about, please let me know in the comments down below. Hope you all have a great week, and I will see you on the next video. Peace.